In my past life, I was so lust-stricken that I forced myself on a cold and aloof college boy. Until his death, he never gave me a friendly look. Reborn in this life, I am determined to stay far away from him. Handsome boy, do you want to do a task? The kind that comes with a wife and money. I almost forgot that I have a system on me. System. I have money. As for a wife, let's leave it to fate. After all, forced love doesn't bring happiness. Shut up. If you don't do it, start all over again. Okay. Sis. Please tell me the mission target. The melon you forcibly picked in your last life. That cold and aloof college boy. One system. Can we change the task? I have a psychological shadow. Look at you. So spineless. If you have a shadow, just overcome it. For this task, we can just talk about the money. How so? Nathaniel, a future business prodigy, will have a huge impact on the economic development of City A. Currently, he is still in a latent state. If you help him now, he will be able to repay you with $2 billion in the future. Before I died in my last life, he was just an ordinary product manager. I didn't expect that I had forced myself on such a big shot. I'll think about it. Think about nothing. If you don't help, go back to your death. No. Sis, what if I get carried away again while helping? Handsome boy, I've already investigated. You are not his type at all. Otherwise, in your last life, you wouldn't have forced yourself to such an extent without getting a single smile from him. Just control yourself, and everything will be fine. Got it, sis. So, right now, take action immediately. Go find him, approach him, protect him, warm him, and care about him by all means. To the time when I was reborn is quite ingenious. There are still more than 10 days until the college entrance examination. Look, this road under your feet is the only way he takes to go home every day. There is still 1 hour before his evening class ends. Get ready and be sure to follow him home. Go. Go home for what? Of course. It is to understand his family situation. Provide whatever he lacks so that he can concentrate on the college entrance examination. With his normal level, he can definitely get into University A. The reason why you could meet him at University S in your last life was probably that he failed the college entrance examination. Sister system. You can't praise one and put down the other like this. According to the memories of my last life, when Nathaniel met a little cat meowing around him on his way to class, he could run to buy to ham sausages for it before going to class. So if I make myself half dead and let him meet me, and he doesn't recognize me now either. So I prepared a basin of beet juice with cornstarch added. I poured it from my face to my feet. Then I squatted at the entrance of the alley that he passes by every day on his way home, so that he could take me home. I waited and waited. Finally, a tall figure appeared. But suddenly, he accelerated 200 meters away from me, and whooshed past me. Immediately after that, there was a rush of footsteps, and 3 or 4 people rushed past me. Nathaniel in danger. I sprang up and rushed forward like a gust of wind, like a large piece of red cloth coming to life. I flew to his side. As a result, Nathaniel was badly frightened. I'm having a flashback before death. Suddenly, something heavy hit my back. Ignoring the pain, I made a big jump and stood between him and those 3 or 4 people, shouting angrily with frowning brows. Come on! What kind of ability is it to bully an unarmed student? Huh? A bald man pointed behind me. He is unarmed. But he fought 5 of my brothers alone. Get out of the way. Don't think that you can scare me just because you are covered in blood. If you don't move aside, I'll deal with you too. You look down on. Suddenly, my neck tightened. Nathaniel hooked my collar and dragged me directly behind him. I could vaguely make out his lip shape. Run. After that, he went to fight barehanded. This hook punch. This elbow strike. This whip-like leg kick. Beautiful. Suddenly, a shrill female voice rang in my head. Zephyr. Did I let you come to watch the fun? Help him. Sorry. I don't know how to help. Right. If close combat doesn't work, I can attack from a distance. I have practiced throwing darts for 8 years. In the pitch dark, I'll throw whatever I can grab. One in the back of the knee. One on the forehead. Ouch. One in the waist. Who? Before they could turn around, Nathaniel knocked them down with a side kick. There was still one left. What should I throw in the way? Throwing at his side. I touched a big item. Raised it above my head with both hands. Here you go, Zephyr. You idiot. You threw Nathaniel's school bag. With thud, the bald-headed big brother staggered. Nathaniel punched him. And the fight was over. I was just about to applaud. Nathaniel bent down to pick up his school bag and walked over. The air pressure was terrifyingly low. If there's nothing wrong, I'll leave first. Coward. Seized the opportunity to go home with him. I lowered my head, gritted my teeth, and then looked up again. My eyes gradually became moist. Brother. I just escaped from the slaughterhouse. Let me stay for one night. Brother. The surroundings fell into a death-like silence. Time passed by second by second. I closed my eyes and squeezed out 2 more tears. Brother. Nathaniel put on his school bag and turned around. Follow me. 3. As soon as I entered the room, I raised my arm and took off my short-sleeved shirt. I want to take a bath. Get me some clothes. A trembling figure came into view. Nathaniel. You're back. Grandma. I subconsciously turned my head. Sure enough, I saw Nathaniel with a black face. I let out a scornful laugh and picked up the red cloth to put it on again. But it was yanked away. Nathaniel walked back to the room with a sullen face again and casually threw the red cloth in his hand into the trash can. Boy, don't be in a daze. Sit down quickly. What's your name? I came to my senses and put on a smiling face. Hello, Grandma. My name is Zephyr. Just call me Zephyr. As soon as I finished speaking, a snow-white cat came out and meowed around my feet. Grandma laughed twice. Nathaniel picked it up on his way home from school. It's also named Zephyr. It has been raised for about 3 years. I nodded and couldn't help petting it a couple of times. Sure enough, Nathaniel was very patient with creatures other than me. Zephyr. Are you Nathaniel's classmate? You are so handsome. Are you not from around here? I'm Nathaniel's friend. I live in. A piece of clothing fell into my arms. He just escaped from the slaughterhouse. His address is unknown. So petty. He has held a grudge for such a long time for just one sentence. Nathaniel looked down at me. Go take a bath. The hot water has been adjusted. Well, take back that statement. Big. Really big-hearted. For after taking a bath and coming out, Grandma and Nathaniel were still sitting on the living room sofa. I didn't go over and peeked out from Nathaniel's room, because Nathaniel didn't prepare pants for me. A hem of the clothes just covered the top of my thighs. How could I go out to see people like this? The culprit happened to look over. I waved to him desperately and showed him my bare leg. He inferently looked away again. Just let everything be destroyed. I retreated to the room and looked around. The chair was no good. It would be cold on my butt. So there was only the bed left. I lay down on it with peace of mind, closed my eyes and let out a long breath. I couldn't help but recall all the things that had happened since I reunited with Nathaniel today. On a pitch-black night, the street lights were dim. 18-year-old Nathaniel, with his fluttering figure, still immediately caught my eye. And the first encounter in my previous life. Under the indigo blue sky, beside the brightly lit teaching building, with magnolia branches all over the place, he stood under the tree, with black hair and a jade-like face, looking at me from afar. The whole scene was as beautiful as a painting. And I stood outside the painting, pierced right through by Cupid's arrow. In front of Nathaniel. My brain seemed to automatically turn off the defense system. I would actively ignore his coldness and infinitely magnify his concern. Was I not forcing myself on a difficult person in my previous life? System. Do you think I'm a love-sick fool? In the late stage. There was a click sound and the door opened. I propped up my head and looked over. Nathaniel walked in, holding a bottle of something in his hand. He walked straight over and said in a cold voice, "Turn over and lie prone." 5 Suddenly. A lot of memories that shouldn't have emerged sprang up in my mind. In my previous life, when this kind of situation occurred, it was usually when I wanted to have sex with him. He was forced to do it because of the agreement. What are you holding in your hand? I didn't, he ran answer. But I heard the sound of the bottle cap being unscrewed. I didn't dare to move even more. System. Are you there? Should I resist? Sister's system yawned. Adapt to the situation. Kid. I'm going to rest. Suddenly, Nathaniel bent down, reached out, and held my waist, and flipped me over all at once. The clothes were pushed up. I propped up my arms and crawled forward, but was pushed back by pinching the back of my neck. Don't move. I'm applying medicine to you. It hurts. It hurts. For the part on my back that was hit. I didn't dare to scrub hard when taking a bath. And Nathaniel even pressed it with his hand. Can you be a little gentler? It doesn't hurt when it's not on you. I can't be gentle. Just bear it. Gradually. A smell of medicine filled the room. I couldn't see his actions. I could only feel that the contusion was smeared with medicinal oil. Warm. Nathaniel's palm was placed there. Gently rubbing. I buried my face in the pillow and my eyelids began to droop. Aren't you able to be gentle? It wouldn't be a big deal to be a little gentle with me. Sleepiness gradually overcame me. And I was suddenly awake and by a slap. I covered my butt and turned my head, glaring at him, but didn't know what to say. Nathaniel ignored my anger and walked to the wardrobe. Get me a pair of pants. There are no suitable ones. Nonsense. A pillow flew into my face. Go and sleep inside. 6 Nathaniel went to take a bath. But I couldn't fall asleep instead. I tossed and turned in bed like a pancake. Just as I had tossed and turned for 81 times. The mattress sank slightly. Nathaniel got on the bed and unceremoniously pulled half of the quilt over. With a pop, the room was plunged into darkness. Gradually, the quilt was filled with the warmth of another person. I felt that my whole body was as tense as a popsicle stick. In my previous life, there were very few opportunities for me to lie peacefully in the same bed with Nathaniel. So every time I would cling to him like an octopus. But now, I don't dare. Definitely don't dare. I held my breath and turned over like a sloth, moving little by little to the side. Suddenly, a great force hooked onto the edge of my waistband, with a backward pull until an arm was pressed against my back. There was a dull pop sound, and the waistband of my trousers snapped back. Immediately, I covered my lower back and turned over. Since I couldn't make too much noise, I was just like an angry little bird being pinched by the neck. What are you doing? Nathaniel was as calm as if he had just been unearthed. If you move any further, you'll fall off the bed. I'm not going to eat you. If you keep wriggling around, you can go sleep on the sofa. In the end, I chose the same peaceful sleeping position as his. Nathaniel, aren't you curious about my name and where I'm from? You can talk about it if you want to. Oh, reborn into this life. Nathaniel still had zero desire to explore me. Forget it. I'm here to complete a task. Right now, Nathaniel should be like a gold ingot in my eyes. Gold ingot. I mean Nathaniel. Is Grandma in poor health? So you know again? What does again mean? Are you trying to trick me? I made up a random excuse. I had a poor health when I was a child. After being ill for a long time, I've learned a bit about medicine, so I know a little about this aspect. Suddenly, Nathaniel turned over and faced me. What do you want? Well, I can help pay for Grandma's medical expenses. I couldn't help but move to the side again. But my wrist was grabbed. Why? Of course. It was to relieve your financial pressure and let you concentrate on the college entrance examination. But it was definitely not okay to say so. Nathaniel's self-esteem wouldn't accept it. Well, a few days ago, a master told my fortune and said that I was your lucky star. Helping you is also helping myself. So, here I am. After a long time, the grip on my wrist loosened. Nathaniel turned over again. His voice flat. Go to sleep. There are classes tomorrow. 7 during the day. Nathaniel went to school. I was too lazy to go back to school. I still remembered most of the knowledge in my head, which was enough to cope with the college entrance examination. Grandma said she was going to the hospital to get some medicine, and I accompanied her. In my previous life, when I met Nathaniel, Grandma was already bedridden. She had diabetes, many complications, and multiple organ failures, and was living on nutrient solutions every day. When we arrived at the hospital, I asked the doctor to change all the medicines to the best ones in the same category and prescribed them for half a year. I got a physical examination card and recharged a sum of money into the medical treatment card. After leaving the hospital, I bought some food and daily necessities. I didn't dare to buy too much for fear that Nathaniel would throw me out. When we got home, Grandma said she would make big buns for me, with locust flour filling. After lunch, the old lady went for a nap. I strolled around near Nathaniel's school. System. Why was Nathaniel chased by those people yesterday? His sister was bullied by a rich second-generation brat at school. And those people were hired by that rich second-generation brat. Nathaniel has a sister? His cousin. The daughter of his eldest aunt. His eldest aunt was very kind to him when she was alive. So of course he takes more care of her. You don't even know this? I was still a bit confused. I don't know. So in your previous life, you were only interested in his body, right? You didn't even bother to learn about his family background at all. Wronged. Of course I investigated a gambling father, a runaway mother, a sick grandma, and a stubborn him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been trapped by a contract beside me for several years in my previous life. Wait. Could this sister play the same role as the sick grandma? Call the system. Does Nathaniel's sister go to the same school as him? Yes. Then I must go and have a look. I walked around Nathaniel's school 3 times but still couldn't find a breakthrough. Silly child. Stop walking around. Look to the right. It was the school basketball court. The girl in white who is practicing shooting is Nathaniel's sister. Hiss. She did look a bit familiar. Something flashed through my mind. But just flashed by. Sister, can you tell me what influence this girl will have on Nathaniel in the future? No. For key information like this, asking one question will shorten your lifespan by 10 years. Do you still want to ask? I see. The influence is not small. You brat. Are you playing tricks on me? Sorry. Sister. I'll do it again next time. By the way, sister, what's this girl's name? I don't listen. I don't listen. Like an obstinate turtle. Just as I was brainstorming, my cell phone rang. Hello, Aunt Lillian. Hey, young master. The master said he will come back for dinner tonight. When will you be back? On the day I opened my eyes after being reborn. My father happened to be abroad. So far, I haven't seen him yet. What time will he be home? The master said it would be around 6:30. Okay. I can make it. 9 Nathaniel's home and my home are in different cities. I rushed as fast as I could and finally arrived before 6:30. But when I entered the door, I didn't see anyone. Aunt Lillian. Hasn't my father arrived home yet? He's back. He's in the study with Secretary Yuri. When I went upstairs, I happened to meet Secretary Yuri coming downstairs. Hello, Yuri. Long time no see. Secretary Yuri nodded slightly. Hello. Young master. Father's effort is still in the study. I ran to the study and, seeing that the door was not closed, I went straight in. Dad was holding a document in his hand. What are you looking at? Father's effort? Show some respect. Come here and let me see if you've lost weight. I walked over with a grin and glanced at the document on his desk. The list of funded students. Great. Dad. You're funding 5 at once. They are all excellent candidates. We should help as much as we can. Suddenly, I thought of something and smiled sweetly. Dad. Recently I also found an excellent candidate. The kind who can get into University A. I also want to fund him. Dad. Do you think you could sponsor me a little? Suddenly, I got a smack on the head. I know you all too well. Don't tell me you've fallen for some girl? No. Dad. That person is really a top student. Yesterday I went to see him. He's in the neighboring city. If you don't believe me, come with me to see him some other day. All right. If you really want to help someone, that's a good thing. Your mother left you a fund before she passed away. Tell Yuri how much you need and let him handle it for you. Great. Thank you, Dad. You should thank your mother. Speaking of my mother, she passed away when I was 2 or 3 years old. The only photo of her in the family is locked in my father's bedroom. Usually, I don't go in there. I sighed. Dad. I find that I can't seem to remember what she looked like. My father also sighed. It's a pity that your mother left so early. Let's not talk about her. Let's talk about you. How are you recently? Fantastic. Now I can eat 2 bowls of rice every meal. Stop bragging. If you can't finish 2 bowls later, you're not allowed to leave the table. Ken. As it turned out, one really shouldn't brag. Seeing that I was so full that I could only stare blankly, Father's effort finally let me go. After the meal, I took a walk to digest and ended up at the high-speed railway station. When I rushed to the neighboring city, there were still half an hour left before Nathaniel finished his evening self-study. I was jolted all the way to the school gate by the taxi. After picking up Nathaniel, I rushed back without stopping. When we arrived, I rushed straight into the bathroom. I vomited everything out. After cleaning myself up, I sneaked into Nathaniel's room. The desk lamp was on. He should be doing his homework. I leaned back and fell onto the bed, and then curled up while lying there. A shadow fell in front of me. I opened my eyes a little and vaguely saw a cold face. I felt my forehead being touched. I frowned and pulled that hand down, moaning, "Wrong place. My stomach hurts. Could you rub it for me?" The moment the warm fingertip touched my skin, I woke up instantly. However, his whole palm was already on my stomach and he even rubbed it a bit. I immediately rolled far away and knelt on the bed. I'm sorry. I was confused when I woke up. Nathaniel stared at me, his eyes gloomy. Who did you think I was? Huh? Nathaniel still stared at me intently. I lowered my head, then raised it, and then lowered it again and sighed. Just an old acquaintance. 77. I peeked at Nathaniel's face. It didn't look good, but he didn't drive me away either. So I shamelessly rolled to the inside of the bed again. After a long time, I heard footsteps. Nathaniel dragged me up to take medicine. After that, he threw a hot water bottle at me. Then he stared at me again. What's wrong? I tentatively asked cautiously. Nathaniel snorted out a laugh from his nose. Aren't you afraid that I gave you poison? Chow. I thought he was going to drive me away. I fell back into the bed again, turned over, and muttered softly, "Poison is poison. Dying in your hands would also fulfill my wish." I was a premature baby and had been constantly ill since childhood. I had my stomach cut when I was 13. After that, occasional stomach pains and cramps were minor problems. After meeting Nathaniel in college, I was so focused on him. The more he resisted, the more obsessed I became. I didn't even notice that there was something wrong with my body. One day, I dragged Nathaniel to a hotel for a night. In the morning, when I went to the bathroom, I suddenly vomited blood. For the first time that day, I thought it was good that Nathaniel was not around. I went to the hospital and was diagnosed with terminal illness. I didn't tell Nathaniel. First, he was very busy at that time. Second, I didn't want him to pity me or laugh at me. After I had to be hospitalized, I set Nathaniel free. Occasionally, when I was awake, I still thought it would be nice to die in his arms. But he never came to see me once. I don't know what medicine Nathaniel gave me, but it was definitely not poison. Because I felt that my stomach didn't hurt as much and my headache was also much better. Nathaniel had hated Zephyr in the previous life from the beginning to the end. As for Zephyr in this life, I'll try not to let him hate me. 12. The next day, I slept in. It was already 11 o'clock after breakfast. Grandma was sitting in the yard picking vegetables. I grabbed some melon seeds and squatted beside her. Grandma, are you going to cook all these vegetables for lunch? Yes. It's Sunday today. Nathaniel and the others only have half a day of school. Kinky will also come for lunch at noon. Nathaniel's cousin? Yes. She goes to the same school as Nathaniel. You'll be able to see her soon. King as in green grass. And he as in seedlings? Yes. Is her last name Jasmine? Grandma gave me a surprised look. Do you know each other? I shook my head and said with a smile. Just a random guess. Jasmine. What a coincidence. It's exactly the same as the name of the only girl on my father's sponsorship list. Zephyr. You should also stay for lunch. What would you like to eat? Grandma will cook for you. I stood up and put a handful of melon seed kernels in her palm. No, Grandma. I suddenly remembered something and need to go home for a while. I went back to the room to get my mobile phone. Just as I reached the entrance of the alley, I ran into Nathaniel. I just nodded at him as a greeting, and my eyes were fixed on Jasmine's face beside him. Finally, I knew why she looked so familiar to me. 13. When I got home, I went straight into my father's bedroom. I dug out the photo he had hidden in the drawer of the bedside table. The moment the photo was exposed to the light, I couldn't help but laugh. Jasmine, Nathaniel's cousin. She looked so much like my mother. So, was it fate or man-made that she became my father's sponsored object? In my previous life, I didn't even know that my father had sponsored her. I thought I had hidden Nathaniel well. Now that I think about it, my father and Nathaniel might have had contact long ago. Sister, are you there? If you have something, just say it. Nathaniel's sister has a great influence on him. Is it also related to my father? No answer was a tacit admission. My vest was soaked with cold sweat, and my fingers curled feebly twice. I couldn't think about this matter in detail. What I need to do now is to nip all possibilities in the bud. 14. Hello. Yuri. It's me. Are you busy now? I have something to ask you. Not busy. Just tell me. Please withdraw 1 million from the fund my mother saved for me. Okay. No problem. Zephyr's father has already informed me. But is this 1 million all for sponsorship? Yes. Yuri. There's one more thing. Tell me. Send me Jasmine's bank account number. 15 on Monday. The 1 million was all credited. After making the remittance, I just lay at home and didn't go anywhere. After my father knew that I had asked for Jasmine's bank account number, he didn't say anything either. At the dinner table every night, we also tacitly kept silent about this matter. Zephyr, wake up. Don't sleep. An anomaly has been detected in the target object. What's wrong? Nathaniel is now addicted to his mobile phone and computer all day long and can extricate himself. The sun was so dazzling that I couldn't open my eyes. I pulled the quilt over my head. System. Don't you understand? The college entrance examination is only a few days away. Isn't it normal for a super scholar like him to relax before the exam? Normal my ass. He is also suffering from anxiety, insomnia, smoking and drinking. You tell me this is normal? 2 hours later, I appeared at Nathaniel's doorstep. Grandma, I'm here again. Why is Nathaniel here too? Isn't it Friday today? Here comes Effer. Why do you seem thinner after not seeing you for a few days? Am I? Maybe My wrist was grabbed tightly. Nathaniel directly dragged me into the house. 16 ouch. It hurts. Let go. Nathaniel pushed me to sit on the bed. And he stood aside. He still had an accusatory look on his face. After a long stare down, I was the first to give in. Ask me. Nathaniel, there is an extra 500. Zero in Jasmine's account. Who is Jasmine? On the same day, there was also an extra 500. Zero in Grandma's account. What a coincidence. Maybe it's double happiness. My shoulders were suddenly pressed. And I had no way to retreat. Why? I lowered my head and said in a low voice. Grandma is very kind to me. I like her very much. What about Jasmine? Do you like her too? After a long while, I nodded very slightly. I looked up to meet his sharp gaze and smiled. Love me. Love my dog. 17 Nathaniel couldn't do anything about me. After all, the money wasn't transferred to his account. He sat at the desk. From his back, it could be seen that he was very angry. Remembering that Sister Tong's said he smoked and drank, I quietly moved closer. I leaned in and sniffed. Suddenly, Nathaniel stood up. I was off balance with my hunched back and threw myself forward. I heard Nathaniel grunt. I subconsciously wanted to touch the place where he was hit. But he grabbed my hand and yanked me up. I held back my laughter and rubbed my nose. Sorry. I wanted to show my concern for you. Oh, what was I talking about? I covered my face and turned my head. And continued to make up an excuse. I heard that you haven't been studying hard recently and also suffer from insomnia and anxiety. My eyes were suddenly attracted by the lit-up mobile phone on the desk. Are you trading futures? I turned my head in disbelief and faced Nathaniel, who had regained his calm face. I also trade stocks in gold. Is there a problem? I don't understand other speculations. But I know a little about gold speculation. In the second half of this year, the gold market will experience its fifth bull market, with an increase of more than 70. Nathaniel is only 18 years old now. If he was also doing these things at this time in his previous life, then how could I have been able to keep him during my college years? Either he had too many expenses during his college years, and I just helped him solve a small part. Or, system, are you there? Sue, can you tell me how Nathaniel on the other timeline is doing now? Nathaniel in the previous life? Just a moment. I need to check. Here it is. On the night you died. He also passed away. Wait. There is a small line of text beside it. Detected that the target object has all the memories of the previous life. I'm not in good health. I'm about to faint. 18. There was no pain of knees hitting the ground as expected. Nathaniel held me up, carried me to the bed, and then sat on the edge of the bed, motionless. Brother, if you're going to pretend, you might as well turn over. Nathaniel is almost staring to holes in your face. Stop it. Sister, I want to start over now. That won't work. If you start over, Nathaniel probably won't live long either. In his previous life, when he heard that you passed away in the hospital, he went crazy looking for you. As a result, he saw an out-of-control car rushing towards a mother and her child on the road. After hesitating for a few seconds, he crashed into it. Nathaniel has always been kind-hearted. Kind-hearted enough to be disfigured doesn't matter. I just went to ask the information collector for the real information. In the few seconds Nathaniel hesitated, he heard the woman scream heartbreakabexeffer. I finally understand why that stupid boss has to hide such important information. Why? Because you are the one who has the greatest influence on him. 19. Pretending. Pretending. I actually fell asleep. I dreamed of many things from my previous life. At first, Nathaniel wasn't that cold to me. Even when I blatantly proposed to keep him, I could feel that he was still a little interested in me. I took up all of his after-school time, and I knew every friend he made. No matter what I did, he seemed to accept it all, neither advancing nor retreating, neither cold nor hot. Until one day, I tied him up, drugged him, and sat on top of him myself. After a few thrusts, Nathaniel broke free from the rope, turned over and pinned me down. I had no strength to resist. After the drug effect completely dissipated, I asked the driver to send him back to school, and I limped home by myself. I also ran into my father, but I managed to muddle through by making some jokes. After lying down for 2 days, I went back to school. Nathaniel's attitude had changed. He turned his coldness into a sharp knife and stabbed me whenever I got close. But I was stubborn. The more I was stabbed until my head was bleeding, the more excited I became. Nathaniel probably also thought I was pitiful. Sometimes when he was drunk, he would show a little affection, but this softening would disappear completely every time I went home. So I rarely went home and rented a house outside. Nathaniel was forced to move in, and then it became that he rarely came back. After he was promoted to manager, I felt a little tired and wanted to let him go. But then he softened his attitude again. It was like a signal. But before I could figure out what this signal meant, cancer came first. So, at first I forced him, and in the end I also active kicked him out. If Nathaniel might have really liked me once, and in the end we still ended up hurting each other, then it can only be that someone couldn't bear to see us together. 20. Opening my eyes. I saw Nathaniel at first sight. Thinking of what the system said about disfigured, I couldn't help reaching out to touch his face. But when the person in front of me took the initiative to lower his head and get closer, I withdrew my hand again. My throat was dry. I raised my hand to cover my eyes. Nathaniel. I'm sorry. Zephyr. Nathaniel called my name urgently. You don't owe me an apology. I smiled, tasting saltness in my mouth. Then, tell me, when did you recognize me? That night. When you called me brother. In the previous life. The number of times you called me like that was very few. I remember it clearly. Yes. So these days, you've been accompanying me in my pretense. No. Zephyr. Nathaniel called my name urgently for the second time tonight. Good. Otherwise, I really wouldn't have the face to see you. I sat up, got out of bed, put on my shoes and walked towards the door. When I grasped the doorknob, I suddenly thought of something. Nathaniel. Do well in the college entrance examination and strive to be admitted to a university. Zephyr. Nathaniel called my name urgently for the third time tonight. I stood outside the door, turned around and smiled. Goodbye. 21. Returning home. My father was rarely sitting in the living room watching TV. Stop. I stopped and asked with a smile. What's wrong? Dad? There are only 3 days left until the college entrance examination. Don't run around. Review well at home. I tapped my head with my fingers. Don't worry. I've remembered everything I should. What has to be wrong, will still be wrong. I still want to take the entrance exam for S University. In my previous life, I made 3 great friends in the university. They were the kind of friends who could be there for me until the end. I heard from Uncle Wang that you've been running to the neighboring city a lot lately. Are you making friends out of town? My steps up the stairs paused, and I slowly turned around. Uncle Wang is the family driver. He always drives me to the high-speed railway station. Me chat a little in the car occasionally, and I basically answer him. Dad, I don't have any friends out of town. They are just the people I sponsor. I've mentioned it to you before. Haven't you forgotten? The person sitting upright on the sofa finally softened his expression. I smiled. Dad, Speaking of making friends. After the college entrance examination. You can't stop me anymore. 22 After the college entrance examination. I also led a dissipated life. I had Uncle Wang drive me to all kinds of bars, clubs, racetracks, and lounges every day. My companions changed every 3 days, both male and female. However, when I was racing on the mountain road, I met someone whose cold-faced look was somewhat similar to Nathaniel, and I got a bit carried away again. I used the same method again. With a written agreement, the relationship was established. He was much more obedient than Nathaniel. A week later, I called home. Aunt Sham, please prepare more dishes tonight. Then I made another call to Zephyr's father. Dad, remember to come home for dinner tonight. I'm in a relationship. I'll bring him home for you to see. 23 The meal was not exactly enjoyable for both the host and the guest. I couldn't leave. My father called me to the study. Are you sure it's him? Yes. He's a man. So what if he's a man? We are also both men. Don't be so gender discriminatory. Dad. Besides, it's the 21st century already. Can't you be more open-minded and inclusive? My father slapped the table, and a few strands of his hair were shaken loose. Nonsense. I'm just asking you. Can you change it? Dad. I like him. I can't change it. My father didn't say anything more and told me to get out. 24 There was still 1 week until the results were announced. I still ate, drank, and wandered around aimlessly every day as usual. By the way, I'm also someone with a partner now. However, my partner hasn't answered my calls for 2 days. Alas, we haven't even held hands yet. On the 3rd day, I went to the usual place to find him. He directly sent someone to tell me not to look for him anymore. TSK. He couldn't bear the pressure after only 3 days. In my previous life, Nathaniel at least held on for 3 years. On the 4th day, I was bored and kept calling and sending messages to him. He blocked me completely. On the 5th day, I went racing on the mountain road and met him. He said that I made him lose his job at the club and asked me to compensate him. Loser. In my previous life, Nathaniel changed 3 companies but still managed to become a manager. I gave my sports car to that person. On my way down the mountain, I slapped myself. Why did I think he was like Nathaniel at that time? They are clearly not alike at all. Nathaniel in my previous life never asked me for a single penny. 25 From dusk until dawn. Unconsciously, I wandered to the cemetery again. Just as I sat down in front of the tomb, my phone rang. I took out my phone and lazily said, "Hello. Where are you now? Your Uncle Wang said you didn't come home all night." "Dad, don't be angry. I miss Mom. I came to see her. Do you want to come? The weather today is very good, but the wind is so strong that I can't open my eyes." When the sun was gradually setting in the west, footsteps sounded behind me. I wanted to stand up to make room for him. I didn't succeed. Well, never mind. I tilted my head and greeted with a smile. "Dad. You're here," my father just said, and then ignored me. He focused on arranging the flowers and fruits for my mother. After that, he looked down at me and asked, "Why didn't you come home last night?" I sat on the ground, propped my head up and looked at him for a while. "Dad. I broke up. Are you satisfied? What kind of partner did you have? It was bound to end sooner or later." "Dad. Did you force Nathaniel like this in my previous life?" My father frowned. "What are you talking nonsense about?" "No. You must have threatened him with something else. Right? He has such a smart mind. He worked so hard. I checked all the clients and bosses he had worked with, but I never suspected you." How stupid I was. Zephyr. Speak properly. "Dad. Even if you don't tell me, I can guess. That girl really looks like my mother. You miss her, right?" "I know. Why don't we both go down there to be with her? Is that okay? Dad? Son. Don't make such jokes. Dad really doesn't understand what you're talking about. Jokes? You actually think I'm joking. I laughed so hard that I couldn't stop my tears. The wind stopped and the sun had also set. I wiped my face and said calmly, Dad, I don't like being alone. If you insist on driving away the people around me, then I can only take you with me to reunite with Mom. 26. On the way home, I suddenly began to spit blood without any warning. My father was so frightened, and that he ran to read lights in a row to take me to the hospital. The doctor on duty was still Uncle Yates, who had once removed part of my stomach. After a series of examinations, he was telling my father, it's not a big problem, 1 second. And the next second he turned around and scolded me urgently. Just keep on making trouble. Sooner or later, you end up in a box. Well, ending up in a box is just a matter of time anyway. I smiled and raised my hand with the needle in it. Don't be so angry, Uncle Yang. I won't make trouble anymore. I still want to see Nathaniel achieve great success. When I woke up again, it was already the afternoon of the next day. It happened to be the day to check the exam results. I took out my mobile phone to check, and the score was exactly the same as in my previous life. S University. It's settled. It's rare to have something happy, and I need to share it with someone. System. Are you there? I have some good news. I'm not sure if I should tell you or not. Tell me. I can go to S University. Well, I have an even better news. Do you want to hear it? Please tell me. Nathaniel controlled his score. 27. August 28th. S University. The freshmen were registering. Full of vitality. Looking around, there were suitcases everywhere. I found my way to the registration office familiarly, then to the dormitory building, and finally to bed no. 4 in room 402. None of my 3 roommates had arrived yet. After making my bed, I lay on it, crossing my legs and waiting for them. When I heard the door open, I flipped over and jumped up, shouting, "Welcome." The smile froze on my face. The person who came in was Nathaniel. During the long time eye contact, I was the first to look away. I got out of bed and put on my shoes, stood in front of him, and smiled formally. Long time no see. Nathaniel didn't say anything. He stepped forward and hugged me. He held me so tightly as if he wanted to merge me into his body. I heard him let out a long sigh and said in a trembling voice, "Fortunately." I couldn't help laughing. I patted his back and was about to say it was enough when he let go of me. "I want to take you to a place." Before I could react, he held my hand and walked out. The corridor was full of people going up and down. I tried to pull my hand out, but he held it even tighter. There were more people on the main road. I was half a step behind him, almost being dragged away by him. This made people turn their heads frequently. Many young girls covered their mouths then laughed. "Nathaniel, if you don't let go, you'll lose your right to choose a partner during the 4 years in college." "I don't need it." "Don't you care about your reputation either?" "I don't care." As soon as he finished speaking, Nathaniel stopped in front of a Mercedes-Benz. He stuffed me into the passenger seat and walked around to the other side and got into the driver's seat. I looked at him in surprise. "Just bought it?" The car drove smoothly on the road. I didn't ask him where he was taking me. The road in front of me was becoming more and more familiar. I probably knew. 28. The moment the door opened, although I was prepared, my heart still tightened. The interior decoration was more or less the same as the apartment I rented in my previous life. Time was a bit tight. I tried my best to restore it. Nathaniel followed me and said in a low voice, "The rent is not cheap." "How long did you rent it for?" "I bought it." I turned around, really shocked this time, as if guessing what I was going to ask. Nathaniel said again, "It's legal. Don't worry." I nodded and slumped on the sofa. You brought me here. Don't tell me you just want me to see the house? A hint of uneasiness actually flashed across Nathaniel's face. After a moment of silence, he walked over and sat next to me. Sapphire. Yes? I want to court you. I raised my eyebrow. Are you sure? Yes. Nathaniel. I sighed and then said. Take out your phone and set an alarm for 1 hour. 29. Ding 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 ding. 1 hour passed. I asked. Nathaniel. Have you thought it through? Nathaniel stared at me without blinking, very clearly. Are you sure you want to court me? Very sure. What if you regret it? Nathaniel lowered his eyes, pulled my hand over and held it in his palm, and gradually intertwined our fingers. Sapphire. I have never regretted meeting you. I just regret not meeting you when I was strong enough. Don't you blame me? Do you blame me? During the long silence, my eyes felt a little hot. I lowered my head and sniffed. You already know the answer. Nathaniel reached out and stroked my eyes, a faint smile curving on his lips. That's also my answer. My heart felt extremely sour and swollen in an instant. Nathaniel's life, which should have been smooth sailing, had become a mess because of me. And he told me that he didn't blame me. He also said that he wanted to court me. I don't want to let go of such a person no matter how many times we start over. I sighed, put my hands on his shoulders, and looked at him with a smile. Nathaniel, you can't imagine how easy it is for you to court me. I moved my face closer. The next second, a very gentle kiss landed on it. Well, now you've got me. Nathaniel raised his hand to encircle my waist, and his eyes were full of possessiveness that I hadn't seen for a long time. Another very light kiss landed on the corner of my lips. Only for me? I leaned back following his strength, whispered with a smile close to his ear. Only for you. 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 Only for you.